Hi, we're going to talk today about the RevoFit solution and how you guys might approach using it within various socket types. I guess the first question is, why would you use RevoFit? Well, I think the real beauty here is that what we can do is take what's traditionally a rigid socket that is made for a particular user at one time, and we can use the RevoFit kit to allow for various points of adjustment to be built in to that socket. And it makes a fully adjustable socket that empowers the patient to create the amount of fit and the amount of volume that they might need within that socket at any time that's particular to their body and limb size on that day or at that time. It allows them to adjust for activity level, and most importantly, as practitioners who are going to be building these sockets and delivering them to patients, it allows the patient to do the fine-tuning to the very small little bits of specifications that you typically have to do by removing pads, grinding them down, refitting them, and hoping that they're going to work over time for your patient. We can stop doing that, and we can make those pads active and empower the user to control them. It's a really beautiful system. So how do you approach using this? Well, what we like to do is first take a look at the indication. Obviously, you're going to look at the amputation level and decide what type of socket is best for your patient. Luckily, the RevoFit system can be used in just about any type of socket. We do a lot of panel adjustments on transtibial sockets. We do a fair amount of supracondylar closure that allows for good supracondylar fit. We do a lot of drop back sockets that allow for either expansion of muscle groups during exercise or closure to make sure that it's easy to don and then doff for a user. There's just so many ways that we can make great adjustability within a good carbon fiber socket for your patient. Okay, so as you do this, what we kind of take a look at is, number one, what type of kit will work best for you. We have two kits. There's the Revo Fit Versa Kit. The Versa Kit allows the reel to be mounted just about anywhere on the socket. It's mounted distally here, but it could be mounted proximally. It could be mounted right in the center, depending on what's best for your patient. The key is that these laces that come out of the reel parallel to each other, and then they route to the location of closure on these panels, and then back to the reel. Very versatile set of applications. All of this is outlined really well in our instructions and our lacing schematics documents that you can access on the support page of the RevoFit portion of our site. The other option is the RevoFit Direct, and the Direct kit, same kit for the most part. It just has laces that exit the reel at 180 degrees from each other. And with that, we typically mount the dial on the panel itself, which allows for a fairly easy user interface for the patient to grab the dial and adjust it or to tighten it as they adjust the panel inward. Either kit works great. We have a lot of practitioners that use both types. Today, just for fun, we'll focus on the Versa kit with the parallel lace exits. What you're going to find in that kit are some various parts and pieces. Instructions on actually laminating the socket and designing that socket and how you use the system. We'll go through those together. And there's obviously some precautions and contraindications that are good to go by just to be sure you're providing the right system for the right patient. In terms of the parts that we use, you're going to find the reel. You'll find a lamination dummy, which also acts as a mounting plate for the reel. So as we laminate this in, we'll create a void in which the reel will then insert and turn to lock. We'll show that to you as we go. You're going to find two lacing kits. One of these lacing kits is designed to be used during the lamination of the product. One of these lacing kits is designed to be given to the patient so that at any time if they have an issue with their lace, or there is a break of a lace, or even just the understanding that that lace might be becoming frayed in a key area, the user can very easily change that lace themselves. Again, empowering the patient to do some work that is not reimbursable and more difficult for the prosthetist to have to schedule. So let's take a look. Oh, sorry, one more piece. We have a tubing, a key part of our system, and it's a sheathed tubing with a sheathing on here that acts to help in the lamination process. So a quick word is that we've got great instructions on how to laminate. They are expanded on our website from the one page that you'll get in the kit to I don't know, 15 pages of good illustrated and called out instructions that are going to allow you to hopefully build the socket, design the socket, and laminate it without issue. We have a best practices document, and we have a lacing schematics document, which helps you understand how to route the laces to create various types of closure on various types of sockets. And that'll be immensely useful for you in the early stages of learning how to use the system. Primarily what we do to laminate a system is we do a first lamination, and we just create a thin shell. We've got specifications for that thin shell and the material use in the best practices document. We then determine where we're going to want to mount the reel. And by the reel, I mean where are we going to put this mounting plate and dummy. We can put it distally on to drape well over, pants tend to drape well over that socket if it's found in the curvature of the socket as you're going towards the pylon. It just hides that the profile of that socket, of the reel just enough. But that may not work well for your socket design, or it may not work well for your patient. The nice part of this Versa kit, as we had talked about, is that it can be placed distally, it could be placed proximally, it could be placed in the center of the lace routing configuration. It's so versatile. Think of it like putting the shifting mechanism on a bicycle for the gear shifting up on the handlebars where it's reachable, rather than putting it back on the back tire where the actual gear shifting is happening. Once you decide where you're going to want to put your lamination dummy, you glue it into place. And then you're going to figure out where you want to adjust. And in this particular socket, we have 2 anterior panels, 1 posterior panel. This is a very good configuration for most users. And so we route, we're going to draw my panel shape and size in. We're going to create a little bit more pressure with these narrow windows in the anterior side, and a more distributed pressure with a wider panel on the posterior side. That tends to work well. Once we've decided the size of our panels and the location of them, then I'm going to figure out where that lace and the tubing should cross. And we always want to make sure that it's balanced so that this panel closes evenly. And so you find the middle of the panel, you divide that in 2, and you get your first location. And then you divide the bottom half by 2, and you get the second location for the tubing. And you take your tubing, and you're going to glue it into place, and this sheathing works great for adhering to the surface of the socket. And we just use little dots of glue. And we lay that onto the first lamination in the routing that we have decided. We glue it on very carefully, make sure that our turns don't kink and that they are placed as per the directions that you'll see in the lamination instructions. And then we bring that back to the housing. We stick the tubing into our lamination dummy, and we make sure that those are packed with clay just so they don't get any resin leakage inside of them. And we do it on both sides. Make sure that there aren't any kinks there. I just kinked it a little bit, so I'm going to make sure right now that there's no kinks. And then I pull a second lamination. We've got lots of instructions on how to do that with the lamination instructions and on the best practices guidelines that you'll see online. Once we've done our second lamination, we have all of our tubing covered, our bayonet, our mounting plate is fully covered, and the socket is ready now to be carved out. So what we do is we redraw where our panels are, remembering that we want that even spacing of the tubing on the panels. And this is where you can really fine tune, like, okay, this is what my end socket is looking like. For sure, I want these placements here. You can reference the picture that you might have taken during the first lamination, or a check socket, or measurements of the patient's anatomy, just to be sure you're in the right spot. We use a cast saw to cut these panels out. We grind them smooth, both on the exterior, in the hole itself that is created, and then also the panel edges. And we're always very careful to be sure that the edges right here where the tubing comes out, that it's sanded very fine with extra fine sandpaper by hand, just so it doesn't create a lace wear issue right where the lace comes out of the tubing. We also want to highlight that at this point you now have a chance to fine-tune the socket for fit by choosing a pad type, the pad shape, and the pad durometer. All of those things will help you really tune in how this is going to affect the closure force that you're going to be creating with this system. Once you've made your panels with your padding, we're going to lace this system. We have a lace feeder, which is this steel piece of wire, and this is pretty slick. This is just like using your grandma's needle threader. It's just two pieces of steel that are welded together, and we put our lace in to one end, and now we've got this really nice lace feeder that you can just feed the lace through all these little channels and around and back so that you can bring it back to the housing on the reel. Once your lace is into the reel and we've ground away to remove the silicone dummy, then we have a socket, or we have the reel, and we literally just take the laces and feed them through the holes in the side of that, the side of this spool, and that's really best done with the lace feeder. And we have a long video on how this is done on the lamination video, as well as the instructions that are in the best practices and the lamination instructions. So once you do that, I'm just going to now tie a knot. You can see the details of that in the instructions. Pull it tight, trim it off, and then I basically set this into my lamination dummy, turn it to lock it, and I'm ready to go. Fairly easy process to create a very functional system that allows you a large amount of options on fit, function, and adjustment for your sockets and for your patient. The first one may be a little bit of a learning curve, just trying to understand how to do it, but we've designed the system to be easy to learn, easy to fabricate, and you're going to find great benefits for your patients as you start using it. We're here for help. If you have any questions, we've made about 3,000 of these sockets, so it's very easy for you to understand how to create them with our help. Good luck, and thanks so much.